So here I am with Mr. Yaron Engler. Yaron here is a individual who runs a lot of men's groups and is also a musician. And Yaron, if you're anybody, you're someone who, if there's anyone who follows their heart and has never actually sold their soul out, it's definitely you. You've like hopped on airplanes and gone out to other countries. You followed your musician path and now you're doing your thing. And your core message is basically around live life without regret, live your truth. So basically, I want to dive into all of that kind of stuff. It's a pleasure to have you here, having a conversation. So to kick off, I just want to hear your story about the idea of living your path, doing exactly what your heart calls you to do, despite the fears or despite what your head might be telling you. What's been your experience with that or your story?
First of all, nice to be here. Thank you for having me here. To be honest, it's not that I always followed my heart. The reason why I'm so believing in it and trying to influence as much as I can people to go to that path, there are actually two reasons. One is my personal story. If I go back, there were moments in my life where I felt living in a lie, where I woke up in the morning and I was constantly lying to myself. I knew that it's not true what I'm doing. I convinced myself, and I remember that pain. And through experiences in various forms of life, I slowly started to clean and cleanse all that. And now nobody's a saint. Of course, there are things that I'm doubting and stuff, but in general, I feel that if I die today, I don't have any regret. I feel that I'm failing, I'm acting, I'm playing, and it's all part of the thing. But there's nothing major that I feel that will be shit, I should have done that. That's one thing. That's the internal one. The external one is the article that everybody knows, I believe, the 5 regrets of the dying. As someone who lives very much from my passion and what I love, and not passion, fuck the word passion, because it's a bit overused now, but living in truth, seeing that the number one regret of people is not living according to my own inner voice, living according to what others expect me. It's sad.
Yeah. And there is a difference. I think, the word passion really is overplayed. And there's been a lot of really popular articles in the self-help world talking about, less about passion and more about doing what works, doing what, you got to do some, and not every job's going to be all roses and rainbows and doing, cartwheels into the sunset. There's a lot of shit stuff that's involved, like the accounting that you have to do and whatever else. I mean, a lot of people you look on the outside that they're following their passion, they'll be the first to say it's not all passion. It's, yes, I'm giving my gift and it's my truth, but it's, it's an overused, overgeneralized term, I imagine, So what's the difference then between living your passion versus living your truth? How would you tease those two apart?
I think it's just that, when things become mainstream, it pisses me off. And the word passion, I heard it so much and I get it. But it's what you say. There is a lot of times it feels to me like we're here, like live your passion, then everything, as you say, everything will flow and stuff. And it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
This is why I prefer the truth, because deep inside, under all the layers of bullshit, under all the social masks that each one of us puts when we meet people, under all these stupid conversations that we decide to talk about the weather in order just not to feel uncomfortable being with someone without talking, under all that, there is something that is deeper and that is our truth. Things that we... something that is a knowing, which is deeper than everything. And it can be about what I want to do in life. It's about what kind of relationship I want to have. It can be about a lot of different things. And I think there is a difference between following that inner voice. And unfortunately, because we live in a matrix, we are so being brainwashed not to go there. Everything around us is structured to take us away from our inner voice. It will be like everywhere we go, we'll have ads on TV, we will have ads on... you just walk in the street, you're bombarded with things telling you how you should feel and how you should look like, and That's one thing. Then if you're working somewhere, you have bosses or you have colleagues who will tell you, this is success, this is how you should be like, and it's not always what you feel inside. And then you sit with your friends and family, and even the most intimate partner a lot of times have expectations from us according to what that matrix say. Yeah. But once you find your inner voice, which is hard, the difficulties come in a different texture.
Interesting. Yeah, even though you're sitting there on the outside looking successful, it doesn't matter that you're on antidepressants and that you're fucking miserable. You're still, according to, like you said, the matrix or from society. And I think that starts as soon as childhood. I think when you look at it, school was really based on creating obedience and creating workers that would be ideal for the industrial revolution and for factory workers. And essentially, it's been my perspective that everything has been to really beat out that inner knowing, that intuition, and replace it with like sort of a distrust of that, and replace it with a trust of your rational, mental, whatever you can sort of look at from a smart perspective. Even though it feels wrong, we sort of learn to push those feelings down, ignore them, stop being emotional, stop being whatever, use your head, think coolly. And of course, there's a time and place for it. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, the balance between your intellect and your heart, or your intuition and your mind. But I think from the outside, if someone's listening to this and they've spent a few years working in some cold, lifeless job, I think on the outside, at least the reason why I said it was because they look at your life as being quite adventurous and quite, risk-taking to go say, fuck it, to hop on the airplane, go live in another country, to go, just pursue a career in music, where I think, a lot of people just would feel uneasy doing that because, it's not guaranteed to make a good paycheck, or who knows where it'll lead type thing. So it's funny that you say, yeah, I felt like I've sold my soul, and obviously that's been your experience, but I think a lot of people might look at the way you have made choices and lived your life, and it's quite, you made decisions a lot of people, I think, wouldn't do,
That yes, maybe in my specific story, in the career, it is like that, because I always knew that I wanted to become a drummer, and I became a drummer, and now I decided a few years ago that, I'm interested more to do this work with men, so I started to do this work with men, so I'm following that. But take it to intimate relationships. Mm-hmm. I was in relationships that I wasn't living my truth.
Sure.
And that was painful. Mm-hmm. So, and it took me, so I understand the pain of being in that place where you're not living your truth. And it's really scary, because it means hurting people.
Yeah.
It means going and living your truth means a lot of getting rid of people, habits, things that we do, and that is a scary thought,
And a lot of people hurt themselves so that they don't have to hurt other people. So it's kind of like you make that trade-off, right?
And then when you hurt yourself, the way you show up to the world, you create. I believe that the way we carry ourselves, exactly what you say. If I hurt myself because I don't want to hurt others, the way I show up is weak. Or aggressive. A lot of people, we will either convert to something weak, or some people take it, as you said, to aggressive. More money, life, show off and stuff like this. But deep inside, there is so much pain, so much shit that wants to just release. And this is why I love the work with men right now, because you're creating environments for men to come. And I don't know, for people who know the button of normalize in music, when you edit music, you have the waves of the audio, like some of them are really loud, some of them are really low, and you want to create, in order for it to listen to it nicely, you just press this button. It makes kind of everything more balanced. And that's what I love about this work, because you have the people, anybody that will enter these workshops will come because they feel enough. And the enough can come, if I take the two edges of the enough, one of them is the people that, a lot of people know the No More Mr. Nice Guy. The people who are pleasing, who are very nice, who are very connected to their feminine, and which I can very much relate. I've been there a lot of years. So they come, and they usually will have problems with creating money, having structure, And you have the guys that made tons of money, everything is under control, but they don't understand emotions. They keep hurting people. They don't understand how to deal with their intimate relationships. The kids, there is kind of distance. And what happens, you bring all these energies and everything that is in the middle, and it's like everybody balances each other, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that they're coming to you because they're, even though in both those polarities you described, when you are the nice guy, and there's a bit of a pain there also, you know, that's calling them towards it. And then I think that on the outside, a lot of these guys fucking a lot of girls maybe, or making a ton of money, very, like you said, aggressively out there, kicking ass type thing, but they're coming to you also because there's something missing. There's some suffering there going on, right? And I'm sure they come from two different places, but I mean...
there is a lot of pain. Being a man, you know, men fuck up this world. The whole toxic masculinity that we live in at the moment, which is everywhere, and it's very common. And
why don't you define that? I hear that word a lot, and I still don't really know what people mean by that. I think I have an idea, but I'm curious, your perspective. How would you... Yeah. What is toxic masculinity?
I don't know what people mean. I will say what I mean. What I mean is, first of all, the place where I come from. I was born originally in Israel. It's a very aggressive place. It's a place where when I grew up, being very honest, being giving, being kind is weakness. You can't really be that. But that was my natural way of being. But in the society, which like, come on, be a man, it's all kind of like, and that creates, so you feel that something is wrong. And it creates, there is so much lack of respect, and it's abuse of women, it's abuse of environment, it's abuse of everything. The men think that I am the strongest, I am in control, fuck everything, spitting, throwing shit, it's violence everywhere. Donald Trump is a great example. I am the most important thing, so fuck this and fuck that and fuck that, and look at me.
In opposed to healthy masculinity, how would you define that?
Well, what I find, and after a lot of years of being around this and seeing this as this is how things are, so I'm not right with the way I live, suddenly learning more and spending more time with men, studying with my teacher John, having my men's groups running, I notice what happens to men when you can remove again all these masks of being I'm the strong or I'm the wimp, and you just create a balance. And so for me, what it is, it's about having clarity, having kindness, being really understanding depth of life, evolving much more awareness, which is a lot of men really challenged by it, awareness of space and people. That's something that, I was always, you put me in a room, I don't need anybody to speak. I know what's going on here. That's a very feminine thing. Women are very sensitive to this. Sure. Men are not, but it is, yes, women might have it easier, but it is a skill that can be developed. And what I love about this work with men, it's like once you bring people into one room and you start exploring, it really covers all layers of life. And I can tell for myself, I'm enjoying such a beautiful relationship with my wife right now. We almost split about a year and a half ago because of lack of sex, which I blamed her again with my masculinity. And then through a very beautiful process, I learned, actually it's the way I show up. And everything changed now. And it's like, it's such a beautiful place to be. But it can be also around, people, a lot of men that don't really know what the fuck am I doing with my life here. Like spend time around purpose, spend time around money, spend time around relationships, spend time around so many things. And it's a whole. It's beautiful, and it's beautiful. It's just fucking beautiful.
Yeah, for me, I think the key word is alignment. When you're in alignment, everything just falls into place because it just becomes very obvious what is in alignment, what's out of alignment. I mean, it's a visceral body felt once you get to that stage where you're not living in your head all day, but you're actually able to sort of, in a bodily sense, just, it's an obvious yes or no if this path or this path is for you. And it's, I think it's a very primal thing that it's strange that we should never have to learn this. It should just be natural, but I feel like we've unlearned it, and then we have to, as we develop as men, relearn it, or as humans. And, but once you are especially for a men's group, if you're holding that space and you're holding that point of clarity, I think that's where the normalization happens, is because everybody else, we all gravitate towards our own truth, and if someone's a placeholder for that, you start to just get into alignment yourself, And
totally.
If you watch someone like Eckhart Tolle and he's just sitting there, even some people just watching a brief clip of him on video for 5 minutes can just get you out of your neurosis and just get you in a place of alignment and like, oh yeah, that's my truth, that's my clarity.
And the funny thing that it's so rare. It's so rare to find yourself as a man in a place where you spend time with other men where you can really go to these places, because it will be usually like, let's go to the pub, get drunk, numb, or it never goes so deep. And for me to create these spaces where I can tell you, I will give you the feedback that I really believe, even if it will be fucking painful. I will tell you that because I love you and I want you to be the best version of yourself, another cliche. But I will tell you also when you're doing fucking amazing and when you are hard on yourself, I tell you, man, relax, you're good. And giving and receiving such an honest and open feedback, man, this is a life-changing experience for all the men that I've seen in this path with me. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that points to, for me, how I would define the opposite of toxic masculinity is kind of like back in the caveman times, it's the man who, let's say, is in a high status position and he brings in people to the cave kind of thing, and it's sort of like you do what's best for the group more so than yourself, even if it hurts them. Like, you don't tell them what they want to hear, you tell them what they need to hear, and it's out of love, and it's like you have the balls to actually call people on their shit, but it's coming from a loving place because you actually know what's best for them. It's like giving your good friend some advice that hurts, but because it's easier to say nothing. But I think the level of masculinity that at least I aspire to be, or a lot of people in these groups, is that to reach that place where you do it to yourself and you just hold that point of clarity and truth, and you do have to have the conversations that are not very pleasant, and you have to say what needs to be said, but it is out of love. It is out of raising up the whole group, the whole tribe,
That's exactly the place of truth. You asked about the word truth before instead of passion, and I think that's exactly the thing. Spending time with a group of men who would give you the honest feedback, you will have to face the truth. If it's pleasant or unpleasant, the truth is there, because a group of men will know, and David Data speaks a lot about it, and I've seen it in everything that I do. I see it, like, men can feel your bullshit, men can feel when you're in your truth, and they will balance you. And if you're willing to go there, man, you're going to have an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's so rare to find those kind of men in your life, and when you do, cherish them, because it's so valuable. You can go for months at a time, and the typical the typical guy will just, or people won't call you on your bullshit because they won't see it, or they don't want to create tension, if you will. But yeah, David Data is a good example of that. His work is really about, you should always surround yourself by men that call you out on your shit out of love because they care about you, and having those. Otherwise, you put yourself in a weird bubble sometimes because we're unconscious to some of our stuff, Yeah. And so it's what's obvious for another man is completely unconscious to you. So it's good to have people give you that feedback and make you aware. No.
Indeed.
All right, so I don't want you to break down all of what happens in your men's group, but just, I'm curious, what is the main objective that you have for men that come to you, work with you in your groups or the retreats or one-on-ones? Are you striving for that alignment? Are you, I don't know, what's the main push or the main objective you try to get when you got a group of men that you're working with?
Going back to what we spoke about before, live your life without regrets. What does that mean to you? If you die today, where is that place that you say, oof, I should have said that, I should have done that, I should have not done that, I should have stopped that? It can be very different to every man. But for me, this is the main force.
My experience with that, living out with regret, you mentioned that if you died today, you would be content. And For me, I find that I'll go through a certain phase where I do everything I want to do. I sort of catch up to all of my ambitions, or catch up to all of the things I want to do. And I reach that place where I'm like, yeah, I could die right now and I'm complete. I've done everything to date that I've wanted to do. I fulfilled all of these ambitions or desires or whatever. And then I enter another phase and I might lag behind that. And then I'll catch up and I'll reach another stage where I'm like, yeah, I'm now at the place where I could live without regrets. And it's, I don't know, for me, it's been that where I'll sort of not live up to what I want to do with my life, and then I'll sort of make a change, and then I'll rapidly catch up, and I'll sort of have a amazing 2-3 years of experience, whether it's traveling or whether it's sexual, whether it's whatever, ambition wise, achieving goals. It's sort of like, it comes in, that's been my experience with it, versus it being a day-to-day constant. That's been really hard for me to be like, every day I wake up like, yep, no regrets today. Last week, no regrets. It's more like, yeah, those last 2 years, I would have died with regret. But because I went and did all this stuff, now I've caught up, and now I'm, that's in my experience. What's your take on that?
For me, that connects more to like accomplishing, like finishing goals. And when you haven't finished it, it feels like you live in regret. I don't think so. From what I know from you, you are on your purpose. You're doing things, and shit happens every fucking time to fuck you in the ass, in the ears, in the fucking mouth, wherever. It comes all the time, but that's not that. But are you clean in your heart, or are you lying to yourself? Today, when the project is a bit stuck and really shit, how are you showing up to that? Are you showing up in a surrender mode, or doing things that are against your values? And if you don't know your values, I suggest you go deep in that, because, that was a big thing for me. I was like, yeah, values, whatever, but whoa, this is really big. But, I've discovered, thanks to Chris, one of my coaches who really helped me.
Talk about him. You mentioned more than once. So who is?
No, Chris, I haven't mentioned. Chris is another guy. I have many people to support, but Chris is one guy that spoke to me about values, and really defined what are the three main. It was a long process to define what are the three main values. And for me, if anything that I do in my life now is not like the three values are not in it, I let go.
Interesting.
Because I will feel regret if I do something against my own three main values. And that really helped me to see things. And yeah, I can have a fight with my wife. I can be in a shitty day with my kids, maybe, and there are those moment things. But in general, is my heart clean? If I fight with my wife, am I willing to come to her and sort it out? However, it needs to be sorted out. At work, am I like this work? Converting myself from being a drummer into this world and try to find a connection. It's a fucked up journey, man. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is it that I'm doing every day, but I have no regrets. Mm-hmm. Because I listen to, it's important for me more than just staying as a performer and drumming is as amazing as it is. It's more important for me to go deep to this place right now and explore with men their truth. This is my truth right now. Might change again.
Sure. Yeah, and also I think this values that you're talking about relates to, David Data always says, discover your purpose, live your purpose, and make that your almost a staff in the ground that you've placed and you won't deviate. And I think that values isn't a sexy idea. And a lot of people say, yeah, whatever, values, okay. And they just glaze over it. But that can definitely be one path to just identify what that staff in the ground is for you. I always say you don't really get to choose these things. They kind of choose you. You just uncover them to be like, oh yeah, these are the three things that for my soul, for better or worse, I got to do them and stand by them. So yeah, and they're obviously going to be different for each person.
Yeah, I like that. Again, I find, and I'm really against all this kind of shit usually, but when I did it with Chris Gardner, his name, by the way, he's writing a book which is called The Business Delusion, which is going to fucking sell everywhere because
The Business Delusion.
Business. We're all busyness, to be busy.
Busyness.
Yeah, busyness, or my accent, so I'm doing this work of values with all the people that I work with now because I see the value of it in my life. It's really, really, really powerful. And I like what you said, that it chooses us and not we choose them. It's nice. I like that.
Yeah, like, did you choose drumming as your passion? A lot of people sort of say, go, I don't know, choose something to make your passion. No, it's kind of like, I don't think that, Steve Jobs could get away from computers even if he wanted to. It just like drew him in like a moth to the light kind of thing, And so it's
a really good point though, because since I remember when I was 4, it was already drumming. But again, following my truth, what happened to me a few years ago, I had a very successful career as a musician. Mm-hmm. I've been touring all over the world, performing in the biggest theaters, performing with really amazing artists. A really amazing career, but a few years ago, suddenly this inner voice started to tell me, like, there is something more important that you need to do with your life. So I could have said, like a lot of people that I still see doing, like, oh, I can change career at my late 30s or whatever. It's like, no, you have to continue, But I said, fuck it. And this fuck it is hard, man. I had to learn so many new things. And it's not like I left a 9-to-5 job that I hated. I really still love. I'm still touring, I'm still doing it. But there is this thing that is more important. So this is the truth. So you just throw yourself into something completely new with all the struggles, which I know that you know. Unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of men would ignore that inner voice and will continue with that career that is not, that's the path to regret again.
Yeah.
And I would do anything that I can to just show them, hey, it's going to be risky, it's going to be muddy, it's going to be nasty sometimes, but it's going to be so fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I think I've been questioning a lot of times, like, what makes a man trustable and strong and attractive to the opposite sex? Like, I think there's a very common link that someone that you as a man would trust to go to war with kind of thing is the same level of attractiveness that like generally women find for men. It's like once you've reached that level of quote unquote manliness or quote unquote strength or stability, whenever you see these pros, these grizzled pros have got it, that level of maturity, if you will, I always wondered what builds that. What differentiates someone who's still kind of an immature boy versus someone who's become a man? It's very subtle if you look at it, but I've come to the conclusion that I think it's the number of times that you've dared to take those scary decisions and you stepped into that world, you stepped into a world of challenge, and then you conquered it essentially, and then you've reached that level and you go to the next level of which is terrifying, and then you stabilize in that next level and you've kind of conquered it. I think the more times that you've done that, it's got a direct correlation towards that elusive definition of masculinity, or how masculine you are, or how stable you are, or whatever it is. The people that tend to hang back and never actually even leave their hometowns, they never take any career risks, or they just, relationship risks. They all stay in that same little safe bubble. They tend to be either immature, weak, or toxic masculinity shows up in those places a lot. So I think you pay the price, but you get the reward.